What if one of the biggest mistakes people with arthritis make is believing that relief can only come from a prescription bottle? Every day, millions of people wake up with stiff fingers, aching knees, swollen joints, and a body that seems older than it should feel. They try creams, medications, supplements, and endless remedies, hoping to find something that finally works. But what if some of the most powerful natural compounds for supporting healthy joints were already known thousands of years ago? Long before modern medicine existed, ancient healers carefully observed nature. They studied plants, roots, seeds, and resins. They passed their knowledge from generation to generation. And surprisingly, several of these herbs appear in biblical history, where they were valued not only as food and fragrance, but also as important tools for healing and wellness. Today, modern researchers are beginning to examine many of these same plants and discovering something remarkable. Some contain powerful antioxidants. Others contain compounds that may help support the body's natural response to inflammation. And a few are generating serious scientific interest for their potential role in joint health. Now, to be clear, these herbs are not miracle cures. Arthritis is a complex condition, and no plant can magically erase years of joint damage, but what these ancient remedies may offer is something many people are searching for: natural support that works alongside a healthy lifestyle. And here's the fascinating part. Number 3 contains a compound that has attracted so much scientific attention that researchers continue studying it for joint comfort and mobility. And number 1 is probably the most overlooked biblical herb on this entire list, despite being mentioned repeatedly in ancient texts. So if you've been looking for natural ways to support your joints, reduce daily discomfort, and learn from wisdom that has survived for thousands of years, you're going to want to stay until the very end, because some of these ancient secrets may be hiding in plain sight. And before we begin, if you enjoy learning about natural health, healthy aging, and evidence-based wellness, make sure to subscribe and join our community. Now let's start with a biblical herb that most people have heard of, but almost nobody thinks about when it comes to joint health. Number 1, hyssop, the forgotten purifier. For centuries, hyssop was one of the most respected plants in biblical tradition. Yet today, most people have never even seen it growing. When most people think about herbs for health, they immediately think of turmeric, ginger, or garlic. Hyssop rarely enters the conversation, and that's exactly why it deserves our attention. In the Bible, hyssop appears repeatedly in rituals of cleansing and purification. It was considered a plant associated with renewal, restoration, and healing. Ancient people did not have laboratories or medical journals, but they carefully observed the effects of plants over generations. When a herb survived centuries of use, there was usually a reason. What makes hyssop particularly interesting today is its rich concentration of natural compounds known as flavonoids and phenolic antioxidants. These substances help protect the body's cells from oxidative stress. Now, why does that matter for arthritis? Because many researchers believe that chronic inflammation and oxidative damage work together to accelerate joint discomfort and degeneration over time. Think of oxidative stress as tiny sparks constantly striking the body's tissues. When those sparks accumulate for years, they may contribute to the wear and tear that many people experience as they age. Studies on hyssop have identified compounds with antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties that may help support the body's natural defenses against this process. While scientists are still learning exactly how these compounds work in humans, the early findings help explain why this herb maintained such a strong reputation throughout history. What is fascinating is that ancient healers had no way of measuring antioxidants. They simply observed results. They noticed which plants seemed to help people recover and which did not. And hyssop remained part of traditional healing practices for centuries. The good news is that incorporating hyssop into your routine is surprisingly simple. Many people enjoy it as an herbal tea. Its slightly minty and aromatic flavor makes it pleasant to drink, especially in the evening. Some gardeners also grow it at home because it is relatively easy to maintain and attracts beneficial pollinators. Of course, as with any herb, it's important to consult a healthcare professional if you have medical conditions or take medications. Natural does not always mean risk-free. Still, there is something remarkable about the fact that a humble herb mentioned thousands of years ago is now being examined through the lens of modern science. Perhaps the ancients understood something we often forget. Healing is not always about finding something new. Sometimes it's about rediscovering something old. And if you think a simple herb is impressive, wait until you see the tiny biblical seed that may help calm inflammation throughout the body. Number 2. Coriander, the seed that calms fire. Most people already have coriander in their kitchen. They just don't realize it. In many homes, coriander is treated as nothing more than a seasoning, a spice added to soups, stews, vegetables, or bread. But for thousands of years, this small seed has been valued for much more than flavor. Ancient cultures throughout the Middle East, Egypt, and the Mediterranean used coriander as both food and medicine. Archaeologists have even discovered coriander seeds in ancient tombs, showing just how highly it was regarded. What makes coriander so interesting for people concerned about arthritis is that these tiny seeds contain powerful natural compounds, particularly one called linalool. Linalool is responsible for coriander's distinctive aroma, but researchers have become interested in it for another reason: its potential role in supporting healthy inflammatory responses in the body. When inflammation becomes chronic, it can feel like a slow-burning fire inside the joints. The body begins reacting continuously, creating discomfort, stiffness, and reduced mobility. While inflammation is a natural protective mechanism, problems arise when it never fully switches off. This is where coriander becomes fascinating. Researchers studying coriander have identified antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties that may help support the body's ability to manage oxidative stress. Some studies suggest that its natural compounds may help reduce the production of certain inflammatory markers associated with chronic conditions. In simple terms, coriander may help create a healthier internal environment, one where the body's natural repair systems can operate more effectively. And unlike many specialty supplements, coriander is incredibly easy to use. You can add the seeds to soups and roasted vegetables. You can grind them into spice blends. Some people prepare coriander tea by lightly crushing the seeds and steeping them in hot water. Others combine coriander with ginger and cinnamon for a warming drink that supports overall wellness. The beauty of coriander is that it doesn't require a complicated routine. It quietly integrates into everyday life. That may be one reason ancient cultures valued it so highly, not because it performed miracles, but because small daily habits often create the biggest changes over time. And speaking of powerful ancient remedies, the next item on this list was once considered so valuable that it traveled across continents, was treasured by kings, and is now attracting serious attention from modern researchers studying joint health. Number 3 may completely change the way you think about one of the most famous gifts in biblical history. Number 3, frankincense, the ancient resin that fascinates scientists. When most people hear the word frankincense, they immediately think of one scene, the birth of Jesus. For many, it is simply one of the gifts brought by the wise men, a beautiful symbol, an important part of biblical history. But what many people don't realize is that frankincense was one of the most valuable substances in the ancient world. In some regions, it was worth more than gold. Caravans traveled across harsh deserts transporting it. Kings desired it. Temples burned it. Healers treasured it. And today, scientists are discovering why. Frankincense comes from the resin of trees belonging to the Boswellia family. When the bark is carefully cut, a fragrant resin slowly emerges and hardens into golden droplets. Ancient healers used this resin for a wide range of purposes, including supporting comfort, recovery, and overall wellness. Modern science has identified several unique compounds inside frankincense known as boswellic acids. These compounds have become the focus of numerous studies because of their potential role in supporting healthy inflammatory pathways. Now let's make this simple. Many common inflammatory processes in the body operate like a series of switches. When certain switches remain activated for long periods, inflammation can become chronic. Researchers have found that boswellic acids appear to interact with some of these pathways in unique ways. This has led scientists to explore frankincense as a possible natural tool for supporting joint comfort and mobility. In fact, several studies involving Boswellia extracts have reported improvements in measures of joint function, flexibility, and daily comfort among participants dealing with joint-related issues. That doesn't mean frankincense replaces medical treatment, but it does help explain why this ancient resin has survived thousands of years of human history. What's remarkable is that the people who first used frankincense had no knowledge of inflammatory pathways or molecular biology. They simply observed what happened. Generation after generation, century after century, and the reputation endured. Today, frankincense is commonly available in supplement form, often standardized for boswellic acid content. Some people also use diluted frankincense essential oil in massage preparations, although proper dilution and safety precautions are essential. Many users describe it as one of the most effective natural additions to a joint support routine. Whether that reputation continues to grow will depend on future research. But one thing is already clear. Frankincense is far more than a symbolic gift from an ancient story. It is a plant medicine that continues to intrigue modern science. And if you think frankincense is impressive, the next herb spent centuries living in its shadow. Yet ancient healers often valued it just as highly, because number 4 may be one of the most underrated natural remedies in biblical history. Number 4, myrrh, nature's ancient comfort balm. Frankincense gets most of the attention. Myrrh deserves far more of it. Like frankincense, myrrh was one of the treasured gifts mentioned in the biblical account of Jesus' birth. It was precious, rare, and deeply respected throughout the ancient world. But unlike frankincense, myrrh was especially associated with soothing, preservation, and physical comfort. For thousands of years, healers across the Middle East, Africa, and parts of Asia used myrrh in oils, balms, and medicinal preparations. Its earthy aroma and rich resin made it a staple in traditional healing systems. What makes myrrh fascinating today is that researchers have identified a variety of bioactive compounds within the resin that may help support the body's natural response to inflammation and irritation. Think about what arthritis feels like for many people. The problem isn't just pain, it's stiffness, it's swelling, it's waking up and feeling like your body needs extra time to remember how to move. Ancient healers may not have understood inflammatory markers, but they understood discomfort. And myrrh became one of the tools they repeatedly turned to. Modern laboratory studies have found that certain compounds in myrrh appear to possess antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties. Researchers continue exploring how these compounds may influence various biological processes connected to chronic inflammation. While more human studies are still needed, the early findings are helping validate some of the traditional uses that have existed for centuries. One of the most common modern applications of myrrh is in topical products. You can find it in oils, creams, and balms designed to support muscles and joints. Some traditional preparations combine myrrh with other botanical ingredients to create soothing massage blends. The experience itself is worth noting. Sometimes relief isn't only about chemistry. Sometimes it's also about creating moments of care. taking a few minutes to massage a sore joint, applying warmth, slowing down, giving the body attention instead of constantly pushing through discomfort. Ancient healing traditions understood this principle well. Healing wasn't always about fighting the body, it was about supporting it, and that perspective may be just as valuable today as the herb itself. Because relief doesn't always arrive dramatically. Sometimes it arrives quietly, gradually, one small step at a time. But now we're moving into a plant that almost everyone already has in their kitchen, a plant so common that most people completely overlook its extraordinary potential. And the science behind it may surprise you, because number 5 proves that some of the most powerful remedies are often hiding in plain sight. Number 5. Garlic, the everyday joint protector. If there were a contest for the most underestimated healing food in the world, garlic would be one of the top contenders. It's inexpensive, it's available almost everywhere, and because it's so common, most people assume it can't possibly be that special. But history tells a very different story. For thousands of years, garlic was valued by civilizations across the Middle East, Egypt, Greece, and Rome. Workers, soldiers, healers, and farmers consumed it regularly because they believed it helped maintain strength, endurance, and overall health. In biblical lands, garlic was a familiar part of daily life. It wasn't an exotic luxury reserved for kings. It was a practical food that ordinary people relied upon. And modern science suggests they may have been onto something. The secret lies in a remarkable compound called allicin. Interestingly, allicin doesn't exist in whole garlic cloves. It forms only when garlic is chopped, crushed, or chewed. This natural defense mechanism creates sulfur-containing compounds that have attracted enormous scientific interest. Researchers have studied garlic for its potential effects on cardiovascular health, immune function, oxidative stress, and inflammation. Why does this matter for arthritis? Because chronic inflammation doesn't exist in isolation. Joint health is connected to circulation, immune activity, metabolic health, and the body's ability to manage oxidative stress. Garlic appears to support several of these systems simultaneously. Some studies suggest that garlic's sulfur compounds may help reduce inflammatory activity and support the body's natural protective mechanisms against cellular damage. Think of it this way. Imagine rust slowly forming on a piece of metal. Over time, the structure weakens. Oxidative stress can create a similar challenge inside the body. Garlic contains compounds that may help the body defend itself against that gradual wear and tear. And unlike many specialized supplements, garlic is incredibly easy to incorporate into everyday life. Fresh crushed garlic can be added to soups, vegetables, sauces, salads, and countless meals. One important tip: after crushing garlic, let it sit for about 10 minutes before cooking. This allows more allicin to develop, maximizing many of the beneficial compounds researchers are interested in. Simple, affordable, accessible. Sometimes the most effective habits are also the least glamorous. We spend so much time searching for the next miracle solution that we overlook the foods that have quietly supported human health for generations. Garlic reminds us that extraordinary benefits can come from ordinary ingredients. And speaking of ingredients, once considered extraordinarily valuable, the next herb was so prized that merchants transported it across continents. At one point in history, it was worth more than gold. And today, researchers are uncovering why ancient people treasured it so deeply. Number 6. Cinnamon, the spice once worth more than gold. Today, cinnamon sits quietly on grocery store shelves, a small jar, a common spice, something people sprinkle into coffee, oatmeal, or desserts without giving it a second thought. But centuries ago, cinnamon was one of the most valuable commodities on Earth. Its origins were surrounded by mystery. Traders guarded its source fiercely. Powerful rulers paid enormous sums to obtain it. Ancient merchants transported it across deserts and oceans because demand was so high. In biblical times, cinnamon was considered a precious treasure, and modern science is helping explain why. What makes cinnamon particularly interesting is its concentration of powerful plant compounds known as polyphenols. These natural substances function as antioxidants, helping protect cells from oxidative stress and supporting healthy inflammatory balance. Over the last several decades, researchers have studied cinnamon for its potential effects on blood sugar regulation, metabolic health, circulation, and inflammation. Now, at first glance, blood sugar may seem unrelated to arthritis, but the connection is surprisingly important. When blood sugar regulation becomes less efficient over time, it can contribute to increased inflammation throughout the body. This systemic inflammation may place additional stress on joints and tissues. By supporting metabolic health, cinnamon may indirectly contribute to a healthier internal environment overall. Some studies have also found that cinnamon contains compounds that may help reduce inflammatory activity directly, although research continues to evolve in this area. What makes cinnamon especially appealing is how easy it is to use. A sprinkle in tea, a dash in coffee, mixed into oatmeal, added to smoothies, incorporated into healthy baked foods. Small amounts can easily become part of a daily routine. And that's one of the most important lessons hidden within ancient healing traditions. The goal was rarely dramatic intervention. The goal was consistency. A little each day, repeated over months and years, because health is often built through daily habits rather than occasional breakthroughs. Ancient people may not have understood antioxidants or blood sugar regulation, but they understood patterns. They noticed which foods seemed to support vitality over a lifetime. And cinnamon remained valuable for centuries because people kept returning to it. But now we've reached the final herb on our list, the one that many experts consider one of the most researched natural compounds for inflammation in the modern world. And this golden root beautifully demonstrates what happens when ancient wisdom and modern science meet. Number 7, turmeric, the golden root. That changed modern research. If there is one herb that perfectly bridges the gap between ancient wisdom and modern science, it is turmeric. For thousands of years, this brilliant golden root has been used throughout traditional healing systems. Long before laboratories existed, people valued turmeric for its ability to support recovery, vitality, and overall wellness. Today, scientists continue to study it intensely. In fact, turmeric has become one of the most researched natural substances in the world when it comes to inflammation. The reason is a powerful compound called curcumin. Curcumin is responsible for turmeric's distinctive golden color, but its real significance lies in what it appears to do inside the body. Researchers have found that curcumin interacts with multiple pathways involved in inflammation. Unlike substances that target only a single mechanism, curcumin appears to influence several processes simultaneously. Think of inflammation like an orchestra that has fallen out of tune. Instead of one instrument creating the problem, multiple sections are contributing to the noise. Curcumin seems to help bring greater balance to that system. This is one reason why it has attracted so much scientific attention. Numerous studies have examined turmeric and curcumin in relation to joint comfort, mobility, and overall inflammatory health. While results vary from study to study, many researchers agree that curcumin remains one of the most promising natural compounds currently being investigated. What's especially interesting is that some studies have compared curcumin-based supplements with conventional approaches used for joint discomfort. Again, this does not mean turmeric replaces medical treatment, but it does demonstrate how seriously the scientific community has begun taking this ancient root. One challenge, however, is absorption. Curcumin is not easily absorbed by the body on its own. That's why many experts recommend combining turmeric with black pepper. Black pepper contains a compound called piperine, which may significantly improve curcumin absorption. This simple combination has become one of the most popular strategies for maximizing turmeric's potential benefits. Many people enjoy turmeric as golden milk, herbal tea, added to soups, mixed into rice dishes, or incorporated into smoothies. Its warm flavor makes it surprisingly easy to use regularly, and perhaps that's the most important lesson turmeric teaches us. The most powerful health habits are often not dramatic. They are sustainable. They become part of everyday life. One cup, one meal, one choice at a time. Over months and years, those small decisions accumulate. And that is exactly why turmeric has endured for thousands of years while countless other remedies have been forgotten. Because generation after generation continued finding value in it, not as a miracle, but as a tool that supported health, resilience, and longevity. And with that, we've reached the end of our list. But before you leave, there is one final insight that ties all 7 of these biblical herbs together. When you look at hyssop, coriander, frankincense, myrrh, garlic, cinnamon, and turmeric together, a fascinating pattern emerges. None of them were originally used because someone isolated a molecule in a laboratory. None of them became famous because of a marketing campaign. They survived because people kept using them, generation after generation, century after century. Ancient healers understood something that modern culture often forgets. Health is rarely built through a single dramatic solution. It is built through consistent daily choices. The herbs on this list do not promise miracles. What they offer is something far more realistic: support, small advantages, natural compounds that may help the body function more effectively. And when those small advantages are repeated every day, they can create meaningful differences over time. Perhaps the greatest secret hidden within these ancient remedies is not the herbs themselves. Perhaps it is the reminder that healing often begins long before symptoms disappear. It begins when we start working with the body instead of against it. For thousands of years, these herbs traveled through history, crossing deserts, kingdoms, civilizations, and generations. Today, modern science is beginning to uncover many of the reasons they were valued for so long. From the antioxidant compounds in hyssop and coriander, to the remarkable boswellic acids found in frankincense, to the sulfur compounds in garlic, the polyphenols in cinnamon, and the powerful curcumin in turmeric. These ancient plants continue to inspire both researchers and health-conscious individuals around the world. And perhaps the most surprising realization is this: many of these herbs have been available all along. You simply may not have been looking at them this way. Now we'd love to hear from you. Which of these biblical herbs surprised you the most? Have you ever used any of them for joint health or inflammation support? Share your experience in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next deep dive into natural health, healthy aging, and ancient wisdom backed by modern science. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.